Next tonight, the people heading up HS2 have said they don't know when the high-speed rail line will become fully operational or how much it will cost. One of the Labour government's first transport pledges was to take the high-speed line all the way to Euston after the Conservatives scaled it back to Old Oak Common. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has spent the day underground to see the progress so far. He's the man with arguably the toughest gig in civil engineering. Mark Wilde is HS2's new chief executive, and on his first day in the job, he hosted the rail minister at HS2's station site in West London. It's here at Old Oak Common that two giant tunnelling machines will burrow their way towards Euston.
With no budget agreed for the new Euston, let alone a plan for what the station will look like, no one can be sure when the first HS2 trains will get there. So, for the foreseeable future, this place, Old Oak Common, will be the end of the line from Birmingham. When will the first HS2 trains get to Euston?
Well, the first thing we've got to get Mark to do is to sort out the cost and the timescale of this project. We were left a project in terrible condition, and his first job is to work out how to finish it and how much it's going to cost.
The 4.5-mile tunnel to Euston was revived in the budget after the last government put it on hold.
The tunnelling work will begin at the back end of 25, start of 26, and then take approximately 18 months to tunnel from here through to the cavern at Euston, or the outskirts of Euston Station.
Work on the new station at Euston was halted almost 2 years ago and is unlikely to restart until a master plan has been agreed between the government, Transport for London and Camden Council. Local businesses and residents living next to the site have been in limbo for more than a decade.
It's now an opportunity to deliver proper rewards for people who've been through that sort of suffering over 14 years. It's an opportunity to deliver thousands of new jobs, homes, open spaces and community facilities.
The timetable for it to happen is another headache for the new chief executive. What's your best guess as to when the trains will get there?
I don't have a best guess. That's why we've hired a real practitioner. He finished Crossrail and turned it into a railway. He's going to do the same with HS2.
Mr. Wilde declined to share his thinking with us today. His first priority is to get control of costs. The final bill for HS2 is anybody's guess. It's almost certainly more than £60 billion, which is already twice the original estimate. Simon Harris, ITV News, Old Oak Common.
That can be so difficult getting a seat on the tube, but when you see the state of some carriages in our next report, you might not think that's such a bad thing. ITV News London has been taking a close look at the Central Line, and we've uncovered some pretty filthy findings. Besides the dirt and grime, some of the worn seats are seriously showing their age in carriages defaced by graffiti. So how did it get this bad? And don't we deserve better? Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
The Central Line seems in need of a makeover. Passengers increasingly find threadbare and apparently grubby seats, and it's not a pleasant experience.
On the Central Line, the seats are getting so disgusting and dirty that one thinks twice before sitting down.
I think they're always dirty, a lot of stains, not very nice.
I think they're really, really dirty. I really think they should be clean, to be honest, and just not that great to sit on, really.
Do I really want to sit on them, to be honest? I'd rather stand sometimes, they're so dirty.
Anna is back using the Central Line after a maternity break.
It's actually really bad. I haven't been in trouble for a while because of the kids, but I've seen such a bad state after a few years of not traveling. It's just a bit disgusting, to be honest.
Graffiti is also a persistent challenge for tube managers, and the trains are more than 30 years old. Factor in filthy-looking seats, and it's not a great advert for London.
It doesn't give off a good impression to tourists, and it doesn't give a good impression of London as a whole. We have got a fantastic tube network that we should be really proud of. We pay fairly and squarely for it, and it's just astonishing that it can be allowed to get so dirty.
As you'll get to see, the dirt we're extracting is vast and, in my professional opinion, a long-term issue.
When Stephen, a commercial cleaner, made this video promoting his business, it went viral.
This dirty water is what me and the team extracted from a handful of train seats.
That was on the Northern Line.
If they're not maintained, that's the level of dirt that we sit in on a daily basis. And post-COVID, you'd like to think that, as a nation, we'd be more cleaner, more attentive.
Transport for London said tube trains get a deep clean every month and a daily floor clean before they enter service. A spokesperson said seats are inspected and cleaned as required during this pre-service clean, with further cleaning as part of the deep clean. Ultimately, all 92 Central Line trains are due to have their seats reupholstered as part of a £500 million upgrade. Simon Harris, ITV News on the Central Line.
Good evening. Any government that can make the trains run on time might find it's a real vote winner, a theory being tested by Labour on a rail network relied on by thousands of London commuters. They will take control of South Western Railway, which should mean more trains turn up on time. And it doesn't stop there. Next in line for nationalisation are C2C and Greater Anglia in Essex. But we've been here before with British Rail and that didn't last. So why is history repeating itself? And what's different this time round? And should we get our hopes up about cheaper fares? Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
After 30 years, ministers have called time on Britain's private train companies. At Waterloo, it's all change, as South Western Railway becomes the first rail firm to be renationalised. Some have never known a railway run by the government, others have all too vivid memories.
I don't think that it's a very good idea. I think it will give the rail unions more power.
They're unreliable, we're always moaning about them, so we're hoping the nationalisation is going to be a good thing.
I think it's fantastic. It's about time that we got the profits from the rails companies back into our own country and not for other countries.
It's delayed, it's expensive, so I would be very interested to know what we as passengers would get if it's nationalised.
I'm dreading it. I think it's going to make the service much worse.
SWR will return to public ownership in May when the current franchise expires. The government's big sell is that a state-run railway will mean more reliable trains, fewer delays and cancellations. For passengers, that would certainly be a bonus. But what about cheaper fares? Financial experts don't think there's much chance of that coming down the line anytime soon.
Very little, unfortunately, in the short term. The government have got other priorities right now beyond reducing ticket prices. I don't think we're going to see any difference in that front, and they've made no promises there either.
The government has already announced ticket prices will rise on average by an above-inflation 4.6% next March.
We have to make sure that we've got enough money to run the services that people want, because if you strip back your service provision so far, then people won't be able to get a train when they want to get it to where they want to get it. And then you enter into this death spiral where people think, I'm going to give up on the train altogether.
Before British Rail was fattened up for privatisation in the 1990s, it suffered from underinvestment, trains past their sell-by date, overcrowding and strikes. Ministers will be keen to avoid the worst of the past.
The one risk is that there'll be a sort of, we don't care about how the railways run because, it's all nationalised. So what you'll need is good management to ensure that British Rail, Great British Railways it's going to be called, is properly and effectively managed.
The rollout of the renationalised railway will take time, but London commuters will be among the first to find out if it really is a new age of the train.
So Simon, after South Western Railway, attention turns to Essex.
Yes, by the end of 2025, 3 private train companies which serve London and the home counties will be back under the control of ministers and civil servants. SWR in May. Then it's the turn in July of C2C. That's the line that serves Southend and South Essex from Fenchurch Street. Incidentally, an operator which has a good reputation for punctuality. And then in the autumn, Greater Anglia. That's the Liverpool Street operator serving other parts of Essex, Stansted Airport and Hertfordshire.
OK, Simon, thank you.
And big changes to planning laws was one of the pledges made by Sir Keir Starmer today. During the election, Labour vowed to bulldoze through restrictive planning laws and be more strategic about building on Greenbelt land. And in a speech in Slough this morning, the Prime Minister made it clear that he was going full steam ahead with that plan. But for those in the sleepy village of Little Marlow who have a film studio planned on their doorstep, it was far from welcome news. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
To the NIMBYs, the regulators, the blockers, the bureaucrats, the alliance of naysayers. Well, we say to them, you no longer have the upper hand. Britain says yes.
At Pinewood Studios, the Prime Minister was bigging up Labour's plan to unleash developers. But 10 miles away in the Buckinghamshire village of Little Marlow, his message sent shivers down the spine.
I really care about the local people. I live in the village. I've been a parish councillor here for a number of years, and I just think it's really important that we listen to the local people. They have knowledge and they have experience that people from further afield just don't understand, and we need to get that voice out there.
Little Marlow is on the front line of the plan to build on parts of the Greenbelt. In May, the County Council rejected a proposal for a major film studio here, but that hasn't killed the scheme.
This is a development that's in the wrong place. There is no economic need for this. Studio space far exceeds the supply, far exceeds the demand of the industry at the moment, and this potential development will destroy the lives of local people.
It's a beautiful spot and it's really, really valuable to our local wildlife, and concreting over 90 acres of prime or valuable wildlife habitat is just going to be devastating for the local wildlife populations.
The developers of the studio have promised to invest £750 million and create 4,000 jobs. Following the election, the Deputy Prime Minister called in the plan. She has the power to overrule the County Council. So will she?
I'm not going to get into individual planning decisions because if it comes across my desk, I have to look at it objectively. So I don't know about that particular case. But
It's one you've called in.
But what I will tell you about in the round is that if it's a significant national strategic planning application, then we have the power to call them in.
But not everyone in Marlow opposes the studio.
I think overall it's a good thing for use of land that is scrub land next to a dual carriageway which is adjacent to an industrial estate. We all want to have jobs and a thriving high street, and I think if we don't encourage a bit of industry into the area then that will die.
The Deputy Prime Minister must now await the findings of a planning inquiry before making a final decision. But the government plans to change the law to allow big planning applications to be fast-tracked. Simon Harris, ITV News.